Hi, I'm Vita Murrow, author of Power to the Princess and High Five to the Hero. Today, I'm in the Quarto classroom to do some teaching and learning about social studies. Social studies looks at the ways in which we are all connected. It's the story of people. Social scientists do this work by asking questions, making comparisons, looking in the past, looking all around us, and even imagining the future. I do these things too as a writer, especially in these two books. Our goal today will be to ask some questions, make comparisons, and be social scientists together. To do this, I'll read aloud from the beginnings of two different stories, and you can compare and contrast them. The story I'm going to read are Snow White from Power to the Princess, and I'll show you a preview of that title page. It looks like this. And from High Five to the Hero, I'm going to read the beginning of Hercules. And this is what the title page looks like. And all of the artwork in this book was created by Julia Berthiartu. And I love it. It really brings the stories to life. While I read, you can listen for patterns of similar and different, just like a real social scientist. Patterns of similar and different come up all the time in my work. And I don't know about you, but they also come up all the time in my life. Making observations like this, thinking about what happens in your own experience, helps you connect with what you're reading. And it's one of my favorite parts of listening to stories is making connections. I recommend recording your thinking in graphic organizers. And I'll introduce you to one I like to use before reading and one I like to use after. Before I start, it's good to activate my mind and your mind as social scientists by asking, what do we already know? What do we need to know to get the most out of the story or our own thinking as social scientists? And even thinking about what we might learn. And when I like to do this pre-thinking, I like to use a chart. And I like to use this chart. It's a KWL chart. The K is for what I know. The W is for what I want to know, and the L helps me think about what I might learn, and it saves some space for me to write down notes later. Quarto Classroom has made some special KWL charts just for you and I to use for this lesson. So feel welcome to fill out your own chart while I share some information on these stories. Snow White from Power to the Princess is a story that has origins in many cultures around the world. It may even be the story of a German countess from the 1500s. That's a very long time ago. But it was made famous when two brothers, the Grimm brothers, published it in the 1800s in a big collection of fairy tales with other stories you may know. And this story, Snow White, all the times it's been told, it features an important relationship between a parent and a child. From High Five to the Hero, I'll be reading Hercules, and Hercules, like Snow White, are on the cover of these books. This is Hercules. And Hercules is one of the best known heroes from Greek mythology. His story has been retold in art and architecture throughout history. He also may have been a real person who people told tall tales about, so exaggerated stories, until his stories became larger than life. This story about Hercules is also about a parent and a child. So now let's get to reading. Snow White from Power to the Princess, illustrations by Julia Berthiartu. Once upon a time there was a family made of King White, Queen White, and his daughter from a prior marriage, Princess Neve White. They lived in a lovely kingdom near woods and streams, dotted with woodworking shops that made all manner of marvels. One day, the king set off on a worldwide tour to care for soldiers wounded in battle. With the king away, the queen took over all royal duties and public appearances. This included arts events, hospital openings, speaking engagements, ribbon cuttings, parades, races, charitable work, photo shoots, state dinners, the works. At first it was fun. However, as time went on, the queen realized people were more interested in what she looked like than what she did. Headlines included, "Best dressed list, is our queen on it?" And the rather more unkind, "The queen's dress disaster, what was she thinking? Emerald is a young person's color." Eventually, the time the queen once spent preparing speeches, she instead spent poring over magazines. The time the queen once spent researching key causes, she instead used to sample lotions and potions with labels such as ageless serum, wrinkle evaporator, skin perfecto, blemish blaster. And instead of arriving early to an event, the queen took extra time to talk to her reflection in the mirror. Mostly, she said mean things to herself. So much so that one day, the mirror broke in protest. The queen had seen an advertisement for a newfangled truth-telling magic mirror. Fairest Fortune, it was called. It talked to the user and told it generous compliments. "Ooh," murmured the queen, "this is just what I need with my big magical creatures event coming up. I'll really want to land on the dressed better than the rest list." So she ordered it the very next day. Down the hall in the castle from the queen lived her stepdaughter, Princess Neve White. She didn't have to attend events with her stepmother, so with her free time, she read newspapers and stories about brave princes and princesses the world over. The princess also enjoyed lotions and potions, but hers included face paints and hair chalk, plus daring combinations such as lemon yellow curls and glitter stars. As she was so open and interested in others, a princess from another kingdom had shared with Neve her custom of henna patterns. The queen wasn't impressed by Snow White's experimenting. "Don't you want to cinch your waist? There'll be pictures taken," the queen queried when they dressed for an outing. "But then I can't breathe," Neve replied. "You should have a little less kohl around your eyes. You look old," the queen said, while passing by the princess at her vanity. "Don't you mean wise?" Neve questioned. "That loud lipstick will bring all the wrong attention," said the queen another time. "Well, I like it," said Neve. Hercules from High Five to the Hero. Illustrations by Julia Berthiartu. Long ago, in a land beside a clear blue sea, was born a boy named Hercules. He was the son of the king, but his mother was a commoner, and at the time of his birth, his father was in fact married to someone else. Her name was Hera, and she was a great warrior. She wasn't exactly eager to spend time raising the youngster. Irritated, Hera dropped magical serpents into Hercules' cradle. She hoped they might bite him so he'd get sick and be sent away. Instead, baby Hercules hugged the serpents and they licked his face playfully. Seeing Hercules' command of the snakes, an idea arrived in Hera's head. She decided to embrace her role as stepmother on one condition, that the baby follow in her footsteps and become a noted warrior. "I'll include him in our family so long as I can put my mark on him," Hera proclaimed. The king granted her request. From that moment on, Hera raised young Hercules to be her replica. "He must be strong and brave, a slayer of beasts," she declared. Her dream was closer than she could have imagined, for the snakes that had licked baby Hercules made him stronger and mightier than anyone who had come before him. As Hercules grew, Hera called upon the best teachers to teach him wrestling and horseback, fencing, archery, and chariot driving. He even learned to play the lyre, a cool old harp. Hercules excelled in everything, and Hera rewarded him with praise. "You're the strongest boy out there," she said, slapping him on the back as they looked out over their kingdom. He was pleased to win the affection of his stepmother, and it inspired him to work hard. Hercules effortlessly grew to be a star warrior. While everyone else was exhausted, worn out, and bruised, Hercules protected the kingdom from rivals and monsters with ease. His compatriots were wowed, and Hera beamed. She had statues erected in his image and a portrait commissioned to hang as a banner at the city gates. Hercules, however, was embarrassed. When people recognized him from the banner, they'd stare and whistle at him. "Hey, Herc, break this log over my head," they'd say. When people encountered the statue of him, they'd pose alongside it in silly ways or pretend they were fighting with him. Hercules also grew tired of Hera's one-sided affection. She only liked one thing about him, the warrior stuff. But that was only one part of who he really was. When no one was looking, Hercules could often be found reading quietly outside the hospital. One day a doctor saw him. "If you're just sitting around, I could use a hand in here," she said. Hercules looked around for Hera, and not seeing her, he slipped into the tent. Thank you for listening to my reading of Snow White from Power to the Princess and Hercules from High Five to the Hero. Before you visit the last section of your KWL chart, I invite you to dig a little deeper by comparing the two stories in another one of my favorite charts, a Venn diagram. It looks like this, like two googly eyes, and is a great way to see how things can be the same, where they overlap in the middle, and different, where they have their own distinct little spheres. I'm going to fill mine out and make notes of the things that I noticed that are different and unique about the two characters. Might even put their names down here, and the things that are the same. I noticed that they both live in totally different places and have really different things expected of them, but those things have a lot to do with the way their step-parents feel about them and the ways that they want them to maybe act or be just like them. And I noticed that Hercules and Snow White, they actually want something different for themselves. So it's exciting to watch them see how they're going to get them. Thank you for joining me today in the Quarto classroom. You can purchase Power to the Princess and High Five to the Hero everywhere books are sold, maybe even find them in your library. I would love to see what you put in your two charts, so you can find me on social media at Vita Murrow, and please use the hashtag Quarto Classroom to share your own KWL and Venn diagrams about our social studies work together. Thanks, friends. See you soon.